If you're having any difficulties accessing anything in this video tutorial, please contact our help desk by email at aoe.gmshelp@vermont.gov or by phone at 802-479-1044. We will help you find alternative means to access this information. If you are looking for more information on accessing the GMS platform, please see the GMS user manual located in the training section of the GMS landing page. The following training recording regarding the grants management system is for closeouts of projects with budgets in the GMS. We're going to be looking at how to close out an FY19 project using IDEA as an example this afternoon. Right now we're looking at the production logon page, but I'm going to switch into the test environment for purposes of demonstration here. And the test environment has data as of April, so that there's really not the most current payments data as we record this session here in the end of June. I'm going to log in with a district level ID that has access to a district that we've got good data to simulate the closeout process with. When I log on, click on the Access Select page. I'm going to select the particular district that I want to work with. In this case, we're going to work with Harwood Unified Union School District. And by default, we'll come into the current year, which is FY20. Most of you are working on your FY20 applications as we record this in the end of June. But as I switch back to 2019 and we look at the actual applications for FY19 that are coming into their final payments, those are the projects that will be closing out after the final reimbursement requests for FY19 have been submitted, approved, and paid. Again, we don't want to close out a project until all reimbursement requests, all payments have been completed. So when I click on the payments button for IDEA for FY19 here, again, it will show me the amounts of the budgets that we had for FY19. Now, IDEA Basic, this particular district had approximately $626,000 available. We went ahead and completed their closeout process earlier, and that's why we now see this final closeout status is approved for IDEA Basic. I'm going to come in here to IDEA Pre-K right now, which had a total of $20,000 on its budget. They've only claimed a small amount of funds, again, as of early in the year, leaving $19,000 available for claims, or now in this case, to be carried over into FY20. So just like as we're creating a reimbursement request, I click on the View Reimbursement Request button, and I select that I want to go into the Pre-K Basic program here, and it showed that one reimbursement request that's already been processed and has been approved and was paid. And so we wouldn't want to be completing a closeout process at this point if any more claims were going to be coming through. Go ahead and click on, in the bottom section, there will be this Closeout Report section, which will become available in July for programs within FY19. And we'll go ahead and click on this Create Closeout Report button. What that will do is it will bring up a new web page called the Closeout Report. It looks a little bit like the reimbursement request page in that it starts off with a display of your approved budget grid. There were some personal services, some salaries monies in here, some purchase services monies in this budget. And then we show a grid with each object code that lists both the final approved budget amount and the amount that has already been paid to the district. Now, the closeout report has the ability to handle the fact that the amount that you have already been paid is not actually what you've spent. So in the event that you've spent more, the closeout report can function like a final reimbursement request for the year, or in the event that you've actually, for some reason, claimed and been paid more funds than you've actually expended, that's what we consider an overpayment condition, and then there's the ways for the system to ultimately recover that overpayment. So most commonly what will happen is that you'll be acknowledging that yes, indeed, this amount that I've been paid is what I've spent. The expenditure report amount column here is the only column that needs to be completed. It comes in initially preloaded with the amount that you were paid, but you could change this column if you wanted to, or if that were appropriate. Similarly, you could change the amount of indirect costs if that was appropriate. Ultimately, I'm not going to make any changes here. I've got about $19,500 that's currently been budgeted but not yet claimed. And so I need to come in here and select an expenditure period end date. This field will only contain, in most cases, June 30th, because that's the only period that we want to, that's when the close of the FY19 year is. When we get in production, that will be the only date displayed out there. You have the option to enter a comment. I can say no additional expenditures are being reported. That comment goes into the reviewer there within the financial services team there at AOE. AOE can respond in kind with a comment. And ultimately, I'm leaving this checkbox checked that says this is my final expenditure. Through that checkbox being checked, that tells the system that there will be no further reimbursement requests during the year. The system has the ability to capture these reports at other times during the middle of the year, but in this case, we're only doing that at the end of the fiscal year in Vermont. Should you need to provide any supporting documentation related to any additional funds you're claiming, you can upload PDF documents or Excel spreadsheets just as you could when we're working with reimbursement requests. I'll come in here and I'm going to click Save Page, and a series of messages can appear, and the only message that we're getting right now is to say, you've indicated this is your final expenditure report. Only your actual expenditures are allowed. Don't report any obligations. For example, many of you will be working into July and early August with finalizing your FY19 claims. Please do not include any obligations that occurred in July or August after the end of the FY19 fiscal year. Rather, that should be handled as an FY20 reimbursement request. And this message is just out there to remind you, please don't include any outstanding obligations after June 30th. With that information now saved, I have the Submit to AOE button is available. I'm going to go ahead and hit Submit here. But before I do that, let me just go back as a quick reminder on the payment summary page. Now we can see that the status of this closeout is created. And when I go back into the closeout report again, now it's out there. Rather than hitting Create, I can reselect the radio button and open that closeout report. I'll come down to the bottom of the page and hit Submit to the agency. It says your request has been submitted. No more updates will be saved. And so with that information now in there, submitted to the agency, really it's just like a reimbursement request. We're waiting on them to, waiting on the state to review and approve that particular closeout request. There's the submitted status message, and I can go in and I can see that this is actually in the test environment and assigned to my ID for review. So for purposes of illustration again, we go back to the Access Select page. And right now, we know that there's a good amount of money that's ready to be passed forward to FY20. So if I go into the FY20 IDEA allocations page for Harwood, you'll see that right now on allocations, there is no prior year funds showing up in the rollover column here. There is for IDEA Basic because I approved that closeout, but for pre-K, there is not. That's going to change in just a second here. As I sign out of the system, log back in, and I'm going to log in as the person who has the authority to approve that closeout request. Bear with me just one second. The closeout request. Okay, resuming our training session here. I have reassigned the closeout review to Julie Morse in the test environment, and now when I go back in and click on her queue of assignments, I can see that she now has the closeout request for that district's pre-K program. Select that. And again, this is a process that only the agency folks are going to complete. She sees the message that was submitted saying that and she enters, yes, that report is acceptable. Go ahead and close that browser. And then she has the option to enter a comment as well here. But ultimately, then she'll go back to her to-do list, and she'll be able to click on Accept for that particular closeout. With that accepted, now the unexpended or even unbudgeted funds that were not previously released return back to Harwood, this district that we're working with here, to their FY20 application. So if I reopen Harwood, and then again I'm in there with an agency ID, but I look at their 2020 IDEA consolidated application, when I go to the allocations page there, now that prior year reallocation of funds, $19,519, has become available to the district for them to budget into their current application or amendment. That completes the closeout process. Again, if you have additional expenditures then beyond what was on your reimbursement requests cumulatively year to date, you're allowed to go ahead and enter a different amount than you've actually been paid. That generates what we call a delta payment, either an additional payment or an overpayment to be recovered by the district sending a check back to the agency or by offsetting against a future payment. And the procedure for that is something that will be determined by the agency. Please keep in mind that for FY19, it will be necessary for those of you that have CFP programs that consolidated funds into school-wide. Please make sure that you close out your school-wide program first so that funds are returned, any unexpended school-wide funds are returned back to the funds from programs from which they were consolidated, like Title I, and then after closing out school-wide, go ahead and close out Title I or Title II at that point. That concludes this training session. There will be a manual available here about how to complete these closeout processes under both the user manual section as well as this video tutorial here will be listed on the video tutorial section. Thank you very much for your attention.